Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on the importance of assessment in English language teaching. I hope and expect that this session would provide you some insights into the significance of assessment with particular reference to English language teaching. Well, my dear students, generally speaking, assessment is an essential component of any education system. It has a strong impact on the teachers and on the pupils because it helps them know about their performance. The teacher knows his or her performance and the pupils can know about their own performance, and it also provides them feedback for improvement. Williams 1998 asserts English teachers should be trained to construct and mark students' papers because assessing students' papers is one of the most important things the teachers do, as their decisions about grades can affect students' lives. And I think this is a very, very realistic perspective on assessment. Well, there are various types of English language tests. According to Hughes 2003, an achievement test is conducted at the end of the year. As compared to that, a proficiency test is designed to measure people's ability in a language regardless of any kind of training they may have had in that language. So at any time point, when a learner is given a proficiency test, it is to check the proficiency level of the student or learner in English language, irrespective of whatsoever are the certifications or degrees or trainings or education that learner has had in the past. A placement test in comparison to this is used to place pupils at different levels of education. So it is at the entry level when a student is entering, for example, any educational system. It is to be assessed whether the student is to be taken out the lower and the medium entry level or the highest entry level, depending upon the performance in language, and it would be determined whether and how far and how much that particular learner needs further language teaching in order to be at par with, for example, the criteria of the university. Finally, a diagnostic test is employed to know the weaknesses and strengths of the learners in a particular language. So, for example, in Pakistan, all board and university examinations are achievement tests, which are not very helpful to understand the strengths and weaknesses of students, which in a sense becomes very ironical in our context. Well, there are some proficiency tests such as IELTS or TOEFL, which Pakistani students need to qualify for admission in higher education in English-speaking countries. So if a student, for example, wants to go to the USA or gets a scholarship, for example, to go there, in order to be placed in a particular university there, a test of IELTS or TOEFL is to be conducted, or a GRE test is to be conducted. And through these tests, what is to be done is to assess the general proficiency level of the student in the performance in English language, so that they can be at par with the other students whom they would join in that university for their degree. Traditional tests versus performance-based tests, according to Puppin, are the traditional tests like board examinations that are one-shot tests based on textbooks that give inauthentic and decontextualized testing tasks, and they have subjective grading and correction. The grading and correction both are subjective, and this leads to negative washback. These are the kind of typical examinations that we have in our country. On the other hand, performance-based testing is continuous assessment that has contextualized test tasks and standardized scoring criteria. Unfortunately, when we look at our context, we do not find that. Well, my dear students, linguists like Alderson and North are in the favor of communicative language testing because its goal is to assess the individual's originality and the creative abilities to communicate in a language. These tests employ authentic texts for the purpose of testing and are based on the learner's needs, the context of the learner, the sociocultural background of the learner, and the purposes of learning learning English language for those relevant specific purposes that particular learner has. Brown, Race, and Smith, 1996, also emphasize the use of creativity. Use of creativity, of reflection, of observation and personal experiences when it comes to learners writing tests. So according to them, the writing tests should cater for creativity, their thinking, critical thinking, their reflection, their observation, and their personal experiences, which means the context-based experiences should also be catered for. Well, my dear students, there are different qualities which can maximize the overall usefulness of an English language test. A good test should have the ability to construct validity, reliability, authenticity, interactiveness, impact, and particularly it should be able to foster creativity and independent learning when it comes to the testing of English language.